All right, we now move to our 1.0 New York Giants 7-round mock draft of this 2023 NFL draft. We did a few of these last season, but we're happy and we're ready to bring it back. So let's start out with, we're going right into it. Alex, it's weird because if you remember last year, we had 2 first-round picks, both of them next to each other, practically next to each other, 5 and 7. We don't have that this year, but that's okay, because we still have a pick in the first round. So we're going to start with that. And we're going to go round 1, pick 25. What are the Giants address? Is it offensive line? Is it center, cornerback, wide receiver? I think that's like the 3 positions, right, that we're looking at. Not linebacker anymore.
Keep an eye on defensive. Keep an eye on defensive line. You could never rule it out.
That too. But we end up going cornerback here, and it's Deontay Banks out of Maryland. He's 6 foot, 197 pounds. He was one of the guys, I believe, that we talked about when we ranked our top cornerbacks in this year's draft class. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure.
He might have been an honorable mention type guy, but yeah. I certainly have him in my top 5.
So height comes in at 6 foot, 197 pounds. The pros that we have for him down or marked here is his athleticism, the recognition of different routes that wide receivers do, whether it's in the slot or the outside, as well as he's very good at press man, which is something that Wink Martindale runs with the New York Giants. So that's definitely something to keep your eyes and ears out for. When it comes to his cons, his ball skills, as well as his zone coverage too. I would say that the Giants, as we know, are blitz heavy. So you're not going to really worry about a zone coverage scheme when it comes to cornerbacks, I think, as much. However, he can tighten that up once he gets to the NFL. And I'm sure the Giants will definitely keep an eye out for Banks, as well as the other top cornerbacks in this draft. Alex, you did this draft. I don't know if you remember exactly. Were other cornerbacks taken off the board at that point that left you with Banks as your top player at that position?
Yeah, so I ran the mock, or I guess the simulator, a few times to make sure that it wasn't like a one-off type thing that he fell. I think I did 5 different ones when I was trying to test them all out. He landed at the Giants 4 out of the 5 times. And he was pretty much the best corner on the board. Joey Porter Jr. was off. Gonzalez and Witherspoon were obviously off as well. And he was really the top corner on the board. Usually the top wide receivers, such as Jordan Addison, were off the board. Top center or top guards. What is it? Osiris Torrance was off the board in all of those mocks. So it just felt like corner was the best value here. And Deontay Banks, a guy who really rose with his combine, ran a 4.35 40, just blew all the drills out of the water. A really, really exciting press man, heavy man corner, which is what Wink Martindale wants. You can throw him on an island with one of the better receivers on the other team, and he can cover that guy. And he doesn't have the best ball skills, that's for sure. But when he keeps up with his man, he's got great route recognition. It feels like he's always a move ahead. And overall, he's great size, great athleticism, a lot of upside as well with him. So I think overall, he's probably the 3rd or 4th best corner, depending on how you look at it with Joey Porter Jr. I do think he's better than Ringo, and that's why I chose him at pick 25. And I think the Giants, it just makes too much sense for the Giants to go corner at pick 25, especially when someone as talented as Banks is available. And I guess I'll move on here to pick 57 in round 2 here. We've got center John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, 6'4", 306. This is obviously an interesting one because he actually fell surprisingly in about 3 out of the 5 mock drafts that I did into that late 2nd round, and that is why I took him. A lot of people are saying he might not be there, but he was there, so I decided to take him. He's a great run blocker. He's got great football IQ. And overall, he's just a really, really solid mauler in the run game. His cons are that he tends to be a little bit shaky in pass protection. He's obviously only played center in college, which means you can't really move him around on the interior. And he is 24 years old, which is, pretty old, I guess, for a draft prospect, a rookie coming into the NFL. And we have him here at pick 57. Obviously, the Giants let go of John Feliciano, of Nick Gates. They need a center badly, and Schmitz just fits right in as your starter. And I think overall, He brings you a lot of, solid play from day one. And I think that's what the Giants really need in this draft. And that's why, now we've addressed cornerback too, which is a big need for the Giants, and center, which is another really big need for the Giants.
Yeah, agreed, Alex, to your points. And I want to say that if this happens in the actual draft, this could very well, this could very well be one of those, what people call steals of the NFL draft for the New York Giants. Schmitz is able to fall all the way here to this, I guess, later part of the second round. Or not later part, early part of the second round, but just fall to this point.
It is. It's late, right? Pick 50, 25th pick in the second round, so pretty late.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess late in the.
Yeah, you were right the first time. Trust your instinct.
I'm used to picks 5 and 7, man. So it's early. Everything I'm thinking is early in the draft. It's not. We go to round 3 now, pick 89. I'm not used to the Giants being good, Alex. It's weird. Wide receiver Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati is 5'10". He's 177 pounds. We were wondering, when are the Giants going to address the wide receiver? Well, they do in round 3 right now, and it's a deep class, so it's something that you can wait on if they need to. Scott, some of his pros, his speed, his yards after catch ability, as well as his twitchiness on the football field. I'll let Alex kind of talk about that a little bit more when he breaks down Scott. When it comes to his cons, he's undersized. He also has a small catch radius, or at least he had one at Cincinnati. Again, another easy fix that you can kind of make when you switch to the NFL. This past season, he had almost 900 yards and 9 touchdowns for the Bearcats.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Scott, first of all, before I touch on the player specifically, I think this is the sweet spot for wide receiver. I feel like in round 1, you're probably not going to get the cream of the crop there at 25. I think Addison will be gone. Smith and Jigba might be gone. Johnston might be gone. Round 2, there's just kind of a big drop off in between there. I feel like you could reach on a guy like Tyler Scott or on a guy like Kayshon Boutte in round 2, for example. But I think here in round 3, where you got guys like Rashee Rice, Tyler Scott, Boutte, like I just mentioned, I think that's where the best value is for the wide receiver position. The reason I decided to go Scott, I believe Rashee Rice was still on the board, but I went with Scott because the Giants have actually had a visit with him at the combine, or a talk or meeting, whatever you want to call it. There has been, I guess, suspicion that they are interested in Scott. They sent scouts to watch him a lot at Cincinnati. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And he fits exactly what Joe Shane and Brian Daboll like in receivers, guys who can separate, guys who have elite speed. Scott ran a 4.44 at the combine, a guy who can really make things happen after the catch, agility, twitchiness, as I put down. Yes, they're undersized, but so was Wan'Dale Robinson, and they did not hesitate to take him in the second round. And hopefully, he could be an elite separator in the NFL level. And something that was very interesting for me is that he actually played 96% of his snaps at Cincinnati on the outside, despite being only 5'10", 177. So I found that interesting as a guy that, Shane said it in multiple press conferences, right? You don't need to be a tall, huge receiver to play on the outside. And I think Tyler Scott kind of proves that. And I think he could be a really interesting piece to add to the Giants offense. I could see him going a lot earlier than pick 89, though. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that look at him and see the potential with all the speed, the separation ability, and take a shot on him maybe as early as the second round.
You're up next.
All right, I'll move on. This guy was certainly interesting. I sat there in round 4, and I was really, really confused. I was thinking, we need a running back. And some of the running backs that I was looking at that I was interested in were kind of off the board. And I felt myself in a little bit of a difficult situation. There was kind of some guys that I wasn't too familiar with. And I realized, hey, after a couple of these guys, the board really starts to dry out. There was kind of a big run on running backs in between the Scott pick and this pick at 128. So I did a little research, and I came up to decide to pick Dwayne McBride out of UAB. He is 5'10", 209. I really, really like this guy. He reminds me, he's your classic power back, a little bit of A.J. Dillon to him. Yes, he's only 5'10", but he's really, really powerful. He's got great strength. He really bounces off tackles. He's got great leg drive, gets those extra couple yards, which I really like. I think is really important. Yes, he doesn't have the greatest long speed, which is certainly, I guess kind of frustrating. He didn't actually run at the combine. They kind of project him to run in the high 4.5, so certainly not a quick guy. And then receiving, didn't really do much of that at all at UAB. Only had 5 receptions his entire career at UAB. So that's something to think about. But as a pure runner with great vision as well, I think he's a guy who could really supplement Saquon Barkley well as kind of a 1-2 punch here out of the backfield, kind of bring a different dynamic to Barkley, and more, I guess, downhill runner than Saquon Barkley is. And I think he could be a really, really good pick for the Giants here. So that's why I have McBride out of UAB.
Yeah, McBride ran 120 or more yards in 10 of his 11 games this past season in 2022, so definitely something to take note of there, although a smaller school in UAB, so a little bit different. However, very good on the stat sheet for him. Round 5, pick 161 now. We go defensive tackle, Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest, 6'2", 288 pounds, a fierce tackler with a quick get-off. He's also forced a ton of fumbles, or not a ton, but a good amount of fumbles in his time at Wake Forest. His cons, though, he's undersized and he's also inconsistent. So, Alex, I don't know if you want to break him down a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Turner's an interesting one, a guy who is really, really a competitor. You could see the passion that he plays with just on his tape. But sometimes it seems almost like one play he'll look like the next coming of Aaron Donald, and then the next play he'll look like Justin Ellis, for any Giants fans out there who know who I'm talking about. But yeah, certainly an interesting guy, a guy who it seems like almost like some snaps is a completely different player. If he can be, at all snaps be his best self, then I think there's a lot of potential there. We know Joe Shane wants to beef up the defensive line. He took a round 5 defensive tackle last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again here. And I think Kobe Turner at this point was pretty good value. A lot of people have him going in the 4th round, early 5th round, and here in the late 5th round, we have Kobe Turner. So I thought this was really good value for the Giants. So I was happy with this pick.
He's sorry, Alex. I don't mean I feel like you're about to go to the next one. So 5th-year senior too. Actually spent most of his time, were basically 4 years of a normal college career at Richmond. He then transferred to Wake Forest for his 5th year, where he ended up having his best year of his career, which is why he's eligible now and wants the draft opportunity, and probably will get drafted late in this draft. Had a total of 38 tackles, 21 of them solo tackles, 2 pass deflections, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So now you can go to the next play. Did actually
a whole bunch of YouTube, when I was doing research on him, did actually a couple of videos, joined in for a couple of interviews with certain people on YouTube. So check those out. He's actually a really interesting, kind of funny guy. So would highly recommend that if you're interested in checking more out about him. But anyway, moving on to round 6, pick 208. We've got a tight end. Obviously, the Giants just brought in a huge tight end in Darren Waller. They have Daniel Bellinger. They brought back Lawrence Cager. But I thought, why not add to the fun and get a really, really good value pick here with Will Mallory out of Miami, 6'4", 239. He's got a quick release. He's really athletic, ran in the low 4.5s at the combine. He's a great run blocker. He's pretty, poor in pass protection. You see him get beat out in the few pass protection snaps that he does have. And for a guy who's 6'4", and 239, he does not have the contested catch ability that you would hope for. I think he's kind of similar to Daniel Bellinger in terms of what he's really good at, run blocking, and can be a threat in the receiving game. And I almost thought about this kind of interestingly. Lawrence Cager's kind of like a nice backup to Darren Waller in terms of similarities, and Will Mallory could be a nice backup to Daniel Bellinger in terms of other similarities in their games. So kind of an interesting pick there. At this point, you're kind of looking at best player available, and I thought Mallory was the best player available here at the very or close to the end of the 6th round here. And then I did that again with the next pick.
Yeah, Mallory, another 5th-year senior. This guy out of Miami now, since his 2nd year, his sophomore year, he's averaged 250 plus in receiving yards. 293 that year, and it's gone up from there. His best year, obviously, coming this past season with 42 receptions for 538 yards, about 13 yards per catch. And he ended the year with 3 touchdowns. 2 years prior to that, out of the 2020 and 2021 season, he had 4 touchdowns, both of those years. So definitely Something to note there. And who is the next guy we got on this list? Oh, yes. This is an interesting one maybe for a few of you, but the Giants do need either a backup or a third-string quarterback, as Davis Webb is now a coach. Round 6, pick 217, quarterback Stetson Bennett. Yes, the quarterback of Georgia, that is him. 5'11", 192 pounds. Pros is his leadership. Obviously helped lead Georgia to a national championship. His accuracy as well as his experience. However, there is always cons with these guys. His arm strength is definitely a question mark. How deep can the guy throw? As well as his age. But he is younger than a guy named Tyrod Taylor, who is the Giants' backup right now.
Just barely.
Just. And so it's a matter of, do the Giants want a youngster here where they have a backup that's signed to a rookie deal that can be here for a few years? Stetson Bennett would be that guy. If he's still on the board, though, in the 6th round, I feel like that's really late. But I do understand that he's been dropping off significantly as time has continued on. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you get a rookie QB that could be your backup for 4 years, low-cost backup, a guy who's played in big games in college, has that experience. Yeah, may not have all the physical traits that you'd wish to have in an elite quarterback, hence why he's still on the board in the 6th round. In all 5 of the mock drafts I did, he was on the board at this spot. And in one of them, he actually lasted to my 7th round pick at 241, the next one. So certainly a guy who's been falling. When you look at a lot of the mock drafts that have come out recently from all the experts, he's been sitting anywhere from the 5th to 7th round, even a couple of them going undrafted. So certainly interesting with Stetson Bennett. I'm actually reasonably, I guess, high on Stetson Bennett. I see him more, I believe in my grading, I had him as a 5th round or 4th round QB in terms of pure talent. So I think overall, this is a great pick for the Giants. Tyrod Taylor's under contract for 1 more year. And then you have another backup for 3 more years after that under Daniel Jones, making very minimal money, obviously being a late 6th round pick. So really, really like this pick for the Giants, and, hope that they could make something like that happen. If not, I'd love to use one of these 7th round picks on a backup QB, get them under contract for cheap for 4 years. Moving on to the 7th and final round, but it's really not a wrap yet for the Giants because they have 3 7th round picks. Pick 241, I'm selecting linebacker Muhammad Diabate out of Utah. Almost fumbled the name right there. He's 6'3", 229. He's really quick off the edge. This guy's an interesting player because he was actually at Florida for a number of years before transferring to Utah. And we see him in a variety of different, packages. We see him sometimes rushing off the edge, sometimes as your traditional inside linebacker, really a really flexible guy. I think a guy who would have a lot of impact on special teams, which is kind of what you're looking at this point in the draft. And he's really quick off the edge. He's good in zone coverage when he's playing that inside linebacker position or when he's dropping off, from the edge rusher position. He's got great lateral agility. And overall, he reads the game pretty well. His strength is certainly, concern. He's only 229 pounds, and he does struggle to slip blocks in the run game. So that's, I guess, somewhat concerning there. A player I do actually really like. His tape is pretty good, all things considering, for a guy who's still on the board here in the 7th round. So I thought I'd take him, and I think he brings some nice flexibility here for Wink Martindale's defense and potentially on special teams as well.
Our second to last pick here, round 7, pick 244. We know that the Giants have lost Julian Love, and they're starting some youngster, or probably Dane Bellin at the position at safety. We need some depth there. We're going to get some here. Safety Tyrique Jones out of Boise State, 6'2", 195 pounds. His pros, his instinct, his speed, and his physicality in coverage. However, that does come with some cons. You do have to say it is the 7th round now, so I think all these players come with cons. If you want to talk about the less amount of cons, you would talk about that in rounds 1 through 3. Round 7, you're really getting into them a little bit. His route recognition, as well as his susceptibility, a word? Can
Beautiful.
I use that?
Yes, it is a word.
In the plural form, right? Susceptibility to double moves is a con there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I was kind of looking for a safety. The safety board had really dried up. And I kind of felt like Jones was the best option. You see some upside with him just because of his physical traits, his speed. You do see that he's pretty instinctual in the run game. He's good size as well, 6'2". If he can bulk up a little bit, maybe just over 200 pounds, that would be more ideal for his position. And does have flexibility as well in the nickel, in slot corner as well. So overall, I think a pretty decent value here when you're getting really, really close to the end of the 7th round. And our final pick here, it's round 7, 253, 2 picks off from being Mr. Irrelevant. We've got edge Robert Beale Jr. out of Georgia. He's 6'4", 247. He is a senior, and I really, really like this pick. I would have picked him before Jones if I had actually noticed it properly before my last and final mock draft. I really like this guy. He's got a great spin move when you watch him off the edge. He's got great quickness. He's got pretty decent bend for a guy who's still on the board in round 7. The cons with him, he doesn't use his hands well at all, and he basically has no power rush. It's only finesse moves. He pretty much only has a spin move right now, but you can see the potential with Beale Jr. He played at a big school like Georgia where he did get significant snaps at times as well. And I think it's always good to take players in the late rounds from big schools. I always feel like that's a good idea. Not only do they bring a lot of times the physical attributes that originally got them there out of high school at some of these bigger name institutions, you also get just some experience, maybe higher quality coaching as well when you're looking at these later round guys. And I always feel like they're great special teams contributors as well. And I think Beale Jr. could be just that. And he is our last pick, 253 in the 7th round. That is all 10 picks in this mock draft. It feels like it was a eternity mock draft. But overall, I guess I'll recap it for everyone here. Round 1, pick 25, we had cornerback Deontay Banks out of Maryland. Round 2, pick 57, center John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. Round 3, wide receiver Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati. That's pick 89. Round 4, pick 128, Dwayne McBride out of UAB, running back. Round 5, pick 161, defensive tackle Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest. Round 6, pick 208, tight end Will Mallory out of Miami. Round 6, pick 217, QB Stetson Bennett out of Georgia. Round 7, pick 241, Muhammad Diabate out of Utah. Round 7, pick 244, safety Tyrique Jones out of Boise State. And finally, but not least, round 7, pick 253, edge Robert Beale Jr. out of Georgia. Josh, before we finish this up, what's your favorite pick? And then I'll tell you what my favorite pick is.
It's going to be the same pick, John Michael Schmitz at round 2, pick 57. And if it's not that, then I lied, and it's not the same. But I know it's the same because you're an offensive line guy, so it's going to be Schmitz. Am I wrong?
You are wrong, actually. I have a dual favorite pick here.
I
have 2.
BS.
I'm cheating.
Schmitz is one of them, though.
Neither of them are Schmitz. No, neither of them are Schmitz.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I really, really like the pick of Tyler Scott in the 3rd round. I think that's really good value for him, and I can just imagine how Dable and Kafka could use him on offense. And then Robert Beale Jr., I'm telling you, I like that guy. I see potential there. So I'm going with him. Anyway.
Interesting. I really thought you were going offensive line, especially for the value, but okay.
I like the pick. I almost feel like he's not going to be there, though, but who knows?
We'll have to wait and see, but we'll definitely keep doing these, and we'll see if he's still there at round 2, pick 57 the next time in a couple weeks or so. If John Michael Schmitz will be there, that's the big question mark. And also Stetson Bennett in round 6. I feel like he'll come back up boards. But that's going to do it for our 2023 New York Giants 7-round mock draft 1.0 edition.